true, so help you God.
Yes, sir, I do.
Put your hand down, go ahead and have a seat. Make yourself comfortable. We're going to be there for a while. No, Judge, we can
We
move.
were talking about moving it to the hallway yesterday, but we can do that later, but just move it out of the way for now and put it up against the wall. And we'll have a bailiff move it later.
Please state your full name for the record, if you would.
Lieutenant Lee Stewart,
Where do you work?
currently employed with the Cherokee County Sheriff's Office.
And currently, what are your main duties that you do?
So currently, I'm one of the assistant division commanders in the Court Services Division. I'm assigned as a crime scene technician on the crime scene response unit, and I'm also in charge of our motor unit for the Sheriff's Office.
How long have you been policing?
Since March 23rd of 1998, so roughly 26 and a half years.
You started in 1998?
Yes, sir.
Did you come out of high school, or how'd you get involved? Where'd you go? Was it high school into law enforcement, college, or something like that?
No, sir. High school directly into the Marine Corps, and then I enlisted in the Marine Corps Reserves, and then I started law enforcement because I needed a job. So, and I've been here ever since.
What attracted you to be a law enforcement officer?
A family friend of ours who was the sheriff down in Alachua County, Florida years ago, I really looked up to, and I thought that listening to his stories that this would be a fun job to get into.
Where'd you go to police academy at?
I went to back when I went. It was just behind Kennesaw Mountain. It was in Georgia.
Was that where you drove every day, or did y'all spend the night and stay over?
No, we drove. I mean, we drove every day. The only time that we stayed anywhere was when we had to go down to the training center down in Forsyth for firearms qualifications or like EVOT for driving instructor, stuff like that. But other than that, we drove back and forth every day.
And how long was the training that you did for that?
I don't remember what it was back then. It was like 11 or 12 weeks.
And when did you do any type of specialized training in the academy, or was it just the basic training?
The academy was just basic training.
All right, were you pepper sprayed in the academy?
I think we were pepper sprayed at the sheriff's office before we actually went to the academy.
Been tased too?
I didn't get tased until probably 7-8 years ago, but
Would you rather be pepper sprayed or tased?
tased.
I'm always interested in that question with officers. When you're in the academy, you just get basic information. Once you get out, explain to the jury, if you would, what FTO is, or how do you get on-the-job training?
So with policing, how you get on the job training is at each division that you go to, you get assigned a training officer. So I started in the jail, so I was assigned to a detention training officer for I don't remember how many weeks that was, but it was probably 6-8 weeks. And I went to several different ones and learned the different shifts and what happened on different shifts. And then you work that position, and then there's continuing on-the-job training that the state requires. We get so many hours a year of training. And then when I moved from patrol or the jail to patrol, then I had to go through a 12-week FTO training process. And then there's still once you get done, the state requires other training that you're required to take every year on top of it. And so there's an FTO process for everything that you go through on top of, like, there's specialized training classes you can take and whatnot, depending on how you want to gear your career.
So you started in the jail, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And then from that, did you go to, is it uniform patrol, is that what we call it?
Yeah, I spent roughly 23 months in the jail, and then about 20 and a half years on patrol before being assigned here.
In the jail, do you get used to talking with people, meeting with people, seeing people with different worldviews and cultures?
Yes.
Then when you get out on the road and you're on patrol, how is that assigned? Are you assigned to a certain area, or what do you do?
So back when I came to the road years ago, there was only 3 precincts. I think we have 6 total now. So they're doing it a little differently now. But so basically, when I came to the road, I trained at several different precincts. With several different FTOs. Now they try to keep people with the same 26 and a half.
How has the county changed in those years?
I mean, the population is growing leaps and bounds from, I grew up here, so from when I was a kid to now, the population has just grown leaps and bounds from what it used to be.
How's the sheriff's office changed when it comes to the size? How many officers did you have when you began, and what do we have now?
I mean, I can give you a guess. I mean, I can't give you an accurate number, but
that'll work. Let's go.
I would say when I got hired in '98, there was probably 100 total employees, and I think now we're allotted for roughly 400 plus officers now sworn.
The sheriff here is Sheriff owns a full service sheriff's office, does everything.
Yes, sir, we are.
Are there standards that the sheriff imposes on his officers?
Yes.
Is it a professional organization? In professional sense that there's always ongoing training and
Yes.
people or accountability, things like that?
Yes, absolutely.
If you would, after you get done doing patrol, at some point did you get involved in doing investigations or get a desire to do anything else?
Yeah, so I've always kind of had an interest in investigations, but I also love being in patrol. So while I was on patrol, there was a posting that came available for the crime scene unit, being on the crime scene response unit, and I applied for that position. It was an extra duty. I applied for that position, went through the interview process for it, kind of a practical, and was one of the ones that got selected. And then obviously, just being selected alone to become a crime scene tech, I want to say it's like 240 hours of thereabouts of required classes you have to take through the state to become a certified crime scene technician.
I want to talk to you a little bit about training, and I'm going to ask you about specialized training for what I call the CSI.
Okay.
Every year, again, if you're an officer and you work for the sheriff, how many hours does the state require training, and how many hours do y'all actually get training?
So the state requires all the state requires is 20 hours, and then there's certain classes that the state requires you to take. The sheriff's office that obviously wants more hours than that.
But how many do you get a year, do you think?
It depends on the year. When I was going to school working on my master's degree, part of that applied towards post-training. So that in those years I got several hundred hours of training on top of my departmental training and stuff. So I mean, it could be anywhere from, it ranges year to year, 50, 60 hours to 200 hours. It just varies.
And what kind of education degrees do you have now?
I hold a bachelor's degree and a master's degree.
Okay, what are those in?
The bachelor's degree is in organizational management and leadership, and the master's degree is in public administration, so basically government management.
Explain to the jurors, if you would, the difference between just an investigator like in CID that's actually a detective, if you would, and then how that is different from someone that does crime scene response or CSI, as I call it.
Okay. So on smaller cases, detectives they'll do the evidence collection and the interviews and stuff like that. On larger scale cases, especially when there's a lot of evidence collection and processing that needs to be involved, they get us involved. And basically that allows them time to focus on chasing leads, interviewing suspects, stuff of that nature, while we're there to, they tell us, hey, I want you to process this area over here, whatever, and then we go back and we do it, and we look for whatever evidence that is available to be found.
Kind of distinguish between a lead detective or just a detective or investigator in a case and crime scene. So you're not involved in kind of interviewing people and just talking to them?
No.
Your focus is more on the actual physical place or evidence?
The place, the persons, crime scenes can be persons, places, things, whatever. So you're focused on the crime scene and the evidence collection aspect of it, not, interviewing suspects or talking to people outside of, like the case detective, right, stuff like that.
Oftentimes we talk about a crime scene. In our line of work, we talk about it's more than just one thing. It could be a place, it could be the victim, it could be the defendant, it could be a certain area that's
correct.
Out. And when you are, can anybody just today in the sheriff's office say, hey, I want to be a crime scene response or CSI investigator? Can they do that, or how does that work?
They can, obviously. As anything, we need to grow accordingly with this, as the county grows. But so when people become new crime scene investigators, there's a process that they have to go through. So there's 240 hours of, I think it's 240, don't quote me, but it's mid 200s of training. There's 7 classes that you're required to take, and then also there's a OJT process that you have to go through as well. That's required by the state. So
you're going to have to tell us what OJT is.
On the job training, sorry. Gotcha. So, for example, when I came onto the unit, I was selected for the unit before I had finished all my crime scene classes. So I was not an actual crime scene technician. So, but I was assigned to somebody who was a certified crime scene technician. So when I first got on the unit, I was assigned to, he's now not longer with our agency with school police, but he was a Sergeant Chris Shaw. And so anytime Chris got called out, I got called out. So basically, Chris was showing me how the processes work, showing me how to do things, showing me how to properly collect evidence as a crime scene. I got to, we call it holding the dummy end of the tape measure. I got to hold the non-smart end of the tape measure so I could learn how things would. And I'd be scribing and taking notes and that kind of stuff and learning the process. So basically training on the job. And I think the state requires actually 40 hours of on-the-job training before you can actually get your certificate, even if you've taken all your classes.
As a crime scene technician, what are the basic things in your toolbox that separates you from other people? When you get in this job and you're, as in this case, what are some of the things that you have in your toolbox that you use on a scene?
So certain classes, I mean, you mean talk about like the required classes that are
the
taken
things that you're looking for to do.
To get the certification?
Or what I'm interested in is when you go to a scene and you're like, okay, I have to process the scene. And toolbox is metaphorical. What things do you actually start doing? And as a crime scene, what are the basic things you're going to, like taking photographs?
Okay, I got you now. Sorry. Like so the first thing that you do when you go to a scene is, as a crime scene investigator, you meet with the lead detective, right? So, and I say that because we want to know what kind of evidence we're looking for. So, if I'm gonna, if I don't know, am I going to process a car for, is it a stolen car? Am I going to look for a gun? Am I looking for a knife? Am I looking for a baseball bat? I need to know what I'm looking for. I can't just go at it blind. So first thing I do is I meet with the case detective and say, hey, what you got? What's going on? I'll make some general notes. And then before I do anything after that, I'll walk through the scene, sometimes by myself, sometimes with the case detective, depending on how complex the scene is, and get kind of an idea of what I'm doing. Because after that, the first thing you do is you take photographs, because you want to properly document the scene as you found it, right? And I don't want to be stepping in the middle of evidence that I should be collecting or kicking stuff out of the way that I didn't see originally. So I want to try to get a basis of what I'm looking at before I start doing anything. And then sometimes before I take pictures, let's say that I look up and it's going to rain, and there's evidence like outside that could deteriorate based off weather, like blood or DNA or whatever. I might kind of go out of sequence and grab that first and put it away so that I can protect the evidence accordingly. But typically the first thing you do is photograph, and then once you photograph, then you start collecting your evidence. It depends on circumstances of what you collect first, whether it's your biological evidence or other things. Because you have to have a kind of a process where you systematically go through the house or the outside or wherever you're going, because otherwise stuff gets missed.
How many at the time, so turn your attention back to the case in July 2018, how many officers, whether it's certified, have arrest powers, or people that just work in CSI, how many did we have in the sheriff's office at that time that were kind of involved in this case?
I mean, I couldn't even give you an answer. I mean, I would say most of our criminal investigations division was out there. I think most, if not all, of the crime scene technicians were out there.
Was this a all hands on deck call at some point?
Pretty much.
I remember talking to you about this case. You remember how tired you were working that scene?
It was a long time we were out there.
Tell the jury about how many hours y'all were putting in, what y'all were doing.
So for me, I know that I'd worked the day of on patrol, because when I was on patrol, I was also a crime scene technician as well. So I was carrying double duty. And as soon as I was called by our Chris Shaw, and he said, hey, I'm going to need you when you get done with work. So when I get done with work, I change clothes, because this is not something that you want to, walk around a crime scene, and it's not easy to move around. Went out there and I helped. We worked most of the night collecting evidence, taking pictures, and then obviously there comes a point where you've got to take a break. So we took a break. We went home for several hours, and then the scene was held, and then we came back the following day and continued on. So we were out there a long time. I can't give you an exact number of hours, but we were out there.
That's fair.
Quite a while.
You said the scene was contained. Talk to the jury about when law enforcement first comes to a scene. At some point, when they realize they're investigating, do they do anything to maintain the scene or secure it?
Yeah. So I mean, depends on the scene. So if the scene is per se in this room and I can see everything and there's nothing real big, we may not crime scene tape it off, right? But we're going to have somebody in the room with a crime scene log. So at that point, once we realize it's become a crime scene, everybody that comes in and out of that scene is logged on a log. So like if say that I'm in charge of the crime scene log, I would be like, Lee Stewart in 7 o'clock, reason in crime scene processing, out at 3 o'clock, back in at 2 o'clock, out at whatever. So that keeps a registered log of who's in and out of the scene. Also, technology-wise, we do have a CAD system through the sheriff's office that, like, for instance, if I call out on a scene, it logs me in the computer. So it says that I was out there at X time, or I was out there at Y time. I left at Y time. But the crime scene log is really your most accurate representation of when people are in and out.
So, Lieutenant, are you a country boy or a city boy?
I'm from the country.
All right. Know things about tractors and farm work and stuff like that?
Yes, sir.
Do you use your common sense and things like that in your job too?
I try to.
And when you, how would you describe this farm, 2511 Purcell Lane? How would you describe it in your own terms? What kind of property is it? What's it like?
I mean, it was an extremely nice home and small farm. It was a nice. I mean, obviously it was set up for equestrian stuff because there was a barn, there was chicken houses. I mean, it was just a small kind of do-it-yourself type farm.
Kind of a blue-collar farm or more of a hobby farm?
I guess that.
A little combination?
A little combination of both, probably.
When you were at the scene and you arrived, I guess Chris Shaw, was he the lead CSI person?
I would assume. So,
and you had other people, Melanie Thrasher, William Ballard.
Yeah, we were all out there.
Tell the jury when you got there, was there delegation of duties or assignments or tasks for your response team?
Yeah, so typically, on a scene like we're talking about right now, it can be large because you don't know what you're looking for. So basically, it's a lot for one person. So it might be you go over here, you go over here, you go over here, you go over here. This is the kind of stuff I want you to do. This is the kind of stuff I want you to do. Because if not, one person can get overwhelmed. So it's easy if you break it up into individual. It's like anything, you break it up into individual duties, and it makes it everybody's more mission focused instead of all over the place. If that makes sense.
When you arrived, so I want to turn your attention now to July 5th, 2018. Okay. It was a Thursday. Do you remember about what time you got there?
I don't. I mean, I know it was after I got off work. So typically on a patrol, our shifts were 5:30 to 6, so it was sometime in the afternoon.
And when you arrived, just about how many people do you remember seeing there when it comes to emergency personnel or law enforcement? The number I was not going to give you is going to be accurate, but I would say there was at least 20, 25 people there at a minimum. And when you came to the property, where did you go to first? What were you doing?
I don't remember exactly where I met, but I remember I went up and I met with the other crime scene personnel on scene and was directed to. I was given my initial task of what they wanted me to help with.
If I have your time down, y'all use military time. Make sure that's right. 17:12.
5:12. Yeah.
Is that about an accurate time? You think around that time you got there?
Probably, yes, sir.
So when you get there, what is the first thing that you are tasked with doing?
So the first kind of thing that I was tasked with doing was processing a Kubota tractor that was parked over next to the barn.
And we're going to get into the pictures, things like that. But just to cut to the chase, did you get any samples for blood from the tractor?
I did, sir.
Now this is a tractor, and there's an RTV there too. Is that right?
Yes, sir. There was.
But we're talking about the Kubota tractor.
It's a mid-sized farm tractor, no cab, with a loader on it.
What kind of tractor do you have?
I've got two. I've got a New Holland 6635 and an LS MT122.
Now, Kubota tractors, those are they nice tractors?
They are.
Are they easy to drive? This type of tractor?
I mean, I think they are, but.
And so, what size of a tractor is it compared to a regular tractor on a farm?
I don't remember the exact size of Like the horsepower and all that stuff of the tractor. I would have to look at a picture to tell you, but
We'll get those.
but the I mean it was an adequate tractor for, in my opinion, for what they were doing.
And on the tractor, so I want to make sure we get this. If you were stepping up, if you're sitting on the, if you would, if I was driving the tractor, sitting in the driver's seat.
Correct.
So this is left side, right side from where I'm sitting in the
Correct.
Driver's seat. So on the left side, there's a footstep. Did you take some swabbings from blood there?
I did, sir.
And did you follow your procedure and how you did all that swabbings?
Yes, sir, I did.
Did you properly seal it, bag it, package it, send it to the sheriff's office, and then it was sent off to the GBI?
Correct.
And was that the blood that came back on the foot there, on that step?
You talking about the one that was tested that returned? Yes.
Yes. Did you check for any other type of evidence on the tractor?
Yes, so I also took touch DNA. I did 9 touch DNA swabs in various locations around the controls of the tractor. So the steering wheel, the examples of the steering wheel, the shifter, the lever that controls the loader on the tractor, stuff like that. I took where people would commonly touch. I took touch DNA swabs.
Blood on the step of the tractor.
Yes, sir.
And then I think, did you help? You were working at times, helping, assisting, watching, being present when the other crime scene technicians did things.
Yes, sir.
Lieutenant Ballard, who was that?
So Lieutenant Ballard, he is actually the lieutenant over the crime scene unit. So he's assigned to CID as a department head. So under CID, there's several department heads. So prime example, and I may get the names wrong, but we have white collar, we have general crimes, we have major crimes, that stuff. So what they do is they have them broken down into sections, and there's a lieutenant over each section. So he's the lieutenant over. I'm not sure what he does. He's over the crime scene unit and another section. So we're also a duty he has.
Very good guy, very smart guy. You like working with him?
I do.
He may not testify because y'all were other people were with him at the time, but
Correct.
Is he over the crime scene?
He is, sir.
Yeah, very, very good guy. Like working with him. Now, when he was spraying the Kubota, the RTV, he was using something called Blue Star. What is Blue Star?
So Blue Star is a chemical that's designed to enhance specimens of blood or where we think blood may be. And when you spray it on, like you would any kind of household chemical or cleaner or whatever, it's out of a spray bottle. You spray it on, and when you spray it on, it fluoresces.
So it's a technique you use, a chemical you use to see if there's blood present.
Yes.
Now, when Blue Star, can it interact or react to other things besides blood?
Yeah, so Blue Star is designed to react to blood of a mammal, humans, other mammals. Also, it's designed, it will react to, because what it's reacting to is the iron in the blood. And it will also react to iron as well, but if it's just straight iron and not blood, it will show differently, basically.
So mammalian blood.
Yes.
And mammal blood.
So if it's just a sample of iron, it'll flash real quick and go away typically. If it's a sample of blood, it'll flash and stay for a period of time and slowly, I guess the illumination will slowly go away.
So let me go back to that. So if you spray it and it's not blood, it pops?
It'll pop real quick and go away.
Okay, but if it is blood, mammalian blood, mammal blood.
Correct. It'll stay, and it won't stay forever. You've got to, you basically have to be set up ready to photo it when you do it, but you got 30, 45 seconds for it to kind of stay up, and it kind of just slowly the fluorescence will slowly dissipate.
And when you were with Lieutenant Ballard and y'all were processing the RTV, it too is a Kubota Kubota
Yes,
brand?
it's a Kubota RTV, which is it's a side-by-side, like a Polaris Ranger or a Kawasaki Mule or whatever. It's a side-by-side used by construction workers, people working on farms, stuff like that.
The lever for the hydraulic dump bed in the dash area, when it was Blue Star, did it fluoresce?
It did.
When you went over the tractor, the dash area, did it also fluoresce?
Give me just a second. Let me look back at my report for a minute. I don't remember. I have it. In my report it says that the step did, but I don't remember the dash. I'd have to look at photos.
It's all right. So the lever for the hydraulic dump, the bed, and the step did indicate presence of blood.
Correct.
Now, at some point, you're processing the house. Did you go into to the actual inside of the house at all and help out?
Yes.
And I think there were some things you were looking. What things there did you notice?
At what point?
Well, let me go back to so I think you were there on the 5th, and y'all, it was when you processed the tractor and the RTV, is that right?
The tractor and the RTV and I took photographs of the barn and whatnot.
Right, lots of photographs, we're gonna see those.
Okay.
And then, did you come back on July 6th, which is Friday, the next day?
Yes, sir, I did.
And I think you probably went to the house in the basement at some point?
I did.
What did you notice down there?
So I went in there and assisted Sergeant Carter while we collected and helped him collect some evidence. We collected samples of hair that was on a wall. We collected various other things, and then I was tasked to process several garbage cans that were in the downstairs office in the house.
When you processed the garbage can, I believe it's the trash can out of Gary's office in the basement, do you remember what was anything in particular that was in there broken?
Yes, so you may tell you everything that was in the can or just the broken items that were in there?
Go ahead.
So in the can there was cigarette packs, food, leftover food, papers. There was also a broken plate that was in there. It was all taken, and when we process stuff like that, I had to take it out and lay it out because I have to photograph it all. So I took it out, placed out a tarp to keep it to where I could lay it all out and take a picture and photograph the whole thing.
Sometimes when I go to a crime scene, I stick my hands in my pocket and just kind of let the scene talk to me. You know, what's there and what does that mean? Do you look for evidence to see where you can take an inference and say, okay, I see this evidence, this probably means this? You ever do that?
I mean, sometimes, but what we typically do is we give the information we find to the detectives because they're the ones that have been talking to people. You know, we say this is possible, this may not be possible, this is the evidence we found. You know, and then they basically put it together with their statements and people that they've interviewed and whatnot like that.
Yeah, Gary Ferris was dead on the day that you went out there and processed that, but in his trash can, was there any indication whether or not he liked Mountain Dew?
Yes, there was a plethora of Mountain Dew cans.
Lots of them?
Yes.
Did you also help process some, I guess, some shoes and a shirt?
Yes, sir.
Tell us about that.
At one point, we were kind of coming through the master bed. I would assume the master bedroom in the house, or in a study, and in the closet in that bedroom, there was a red color shirt that had several stains on it, which was photographed, and then there was also several pairs of shoes that I think one was a teal colored pair of shoes, and the other one was multicolored pair of shoes. They were in the same closet, and both of them had stains on them, which were tested, and obviously I photographed the shoes.
Did you find anything that was consistent with soot or ash or anything like that?
So on the red shirt that I photographed, I noticed a black stain. I believe it was on the back, down around the bottom, and it had the appearance of ash or soot.
And then someone else was processed that?
I'm assuming yes.
And the garbage can, did you think there was possible blood on that, or did you
I did.
try to take some samples?
So that on one of the garbage cans downstairs, I noticed two reddish brown stains, and at the time, based on the scene, I assumed that they may be blood based off the color. So I did collect them so that they could be tested to see if they were in fact blood.
The parts that stipulate to the GBI reports, those are going to come in, but do you even know what the results are on some of those?
Not on all of them, no.
And it is what it is, and we'll bring those in. We've stipulated those, but everything that you process, the tractor, the RTV, helping with that, the cans, the garbage cans, the swabbings from those and everything else, did you properly follow your procedures to bag those, maintain those, and make sure that they got to the GBI properly for testing?
Yes, sir.
All right. Did you ever go over to the barn and check out the barn and see if you find any evidence over there?
So I believe it was the second day. Let me just verify.
I know you say the 6th, if that's right.
The 6th, yeah. When I went back out there, I was asked to do a walkthrough of the barn with the detective. So basically, I walked through with one of the detectives, and I had my camera on my neck, and basically we were checking each other. So we walked through. Does he see something else? Oh, based off how the investigation is moving. Now I need this as evidence. Now I need this as evidence. Now I need this as evidence. So then we start taking more photographs and start documenting more things. And if we need to collect something else, we collect it.
At that point, what did you know about a gun being involved, or what was your mindset, your present sense of impression at that time of what was going on with involving a gun?
I knew we were potentially looking for a smaller caliber handgun of some kind.
When did you know about the bullet in the rib?
When?
Do you remember?
I want to say it was I can't remember. I know it was either late the first night or early the next morning, but I think it was the first night. When
you arrived, was the bullet found yet in the ribs, or was that after?
I can't recall an exact timeline.
But is it fair to say most of your investigation, while you're processing the scene, you were investigating a murder?
Yes.
Or investigating a crime, I guess I should say.
Yes.
I didn't know if when you first arrived, if you thought it was an accident, someone had a heart attack, or were you actually, it was an investigation?
In a situation like this, obviously you assume the worst and hope for the best.
Sure. And you've worked with law enforcement officers a long time?
Yes.
Gallows humor sometimes. They can work things off, or they're cynical at times.
Correct.
Do y'all begin with, oftentimes there's a theory, or maybe there's a crime, and you work it until it stops? In other words, there's no more evidence?
I would say that's fair and accurate.
And in this case, when you were doing your task in that, were you just focused on what you were assigned to do and try to find any type of evidence?
So, I hope this answers your question. So, like, prime example, when I was tasked to do the tractor, I was looking for any evidence I could find on the tractor, whether it be blood or any other substance that would indicate any sort of criminal offense or other explanation. So does that help? So
sure.
So basically when we get there, we're kind of geared. We talk to the detective. Hey, what are you looking for? What do you need? And then that kind of gears us in the direction of what we're looking.
And then you independently at times can just follow the scene where it goes?
Correct.
Now, when you went into the barn, did you find a gun?
Yes, we found a 32 caliber. I think it was a 32 caliber firearm, revolver.
Now, does Cherokee County have many murders per year? Do y'all respond to a lot of murders? Not really.
Not really.
So
comparative to other surrounding, more metro jurisdictions, no.
So not a lot of major violent
No.
crimes. Had you worked a case like this in a burning or something? Was this the first time?
This was the first time.
And would you, for most of the other officers, the same thing was true too?
I would assume. I don't know the other crime scene technicians' training and experience, but I would assume it was,
So when you're working a case and there's a bullet in someone's ribs that's been burned, why are you interested in finding a gun?
Because at that point, I believe a reasonable and prudent person would believe that there was some kind of foul play.
And when you found this gun, what did you notice about the gun? First of all, where was it at? What type of gun was it, and what did you notice about it?
It was a 32 caliber revolver. It appeared to be old. I believe it was in a cabinet in the barn, kind of off the tack, like a tack room, I believe. And obviously, the first thing, one of the first things we do is we photograph it, and then obviously we inspect it to see if there's any rounds that had been fired or anything in it. And that's easy with a revolver recently because you can open the cylinder and look, and you can look at the primers on all of them. And none of the primers in that weapon that were loaded in the weapon had been fired. So it was photographed and left in place.
So it did not appear to be recently fired?
No.
How about the ammunition? Was the ammunition accounted for?
I remember taking pictures of lots of different ammunition for different caliber firearms.
But didn't see anything out of the ordinary?
No.
No blood, no dirty, no moved, or anything that looks like it was recently used in any way.
Didn't appear to be to me, no.
All right, tell the jury, if you would, are you a gun guy?
I am.
Like guns?
I'm not an expert, but I like
Sure.
guns. I like to shoot.
You have more common knowledge. You think somebody doesn't use guns?
Probably.
I'm not going to ask you how many guns you own because I wouldn't want you to ask me how many I own. But what is the difference between, say, a 32 and a 38 and a 357?
Size.
And what do you mean by
Size,
that?
speed, weight of the cartridge.
All right, for people that don't know, let me just start on this side, going from small to large. 22, then you step over a 32
Yep.
bullet, then a 38,
Yep.
357.
Correct.
All right. Can those be shot in a revolver?
Yes.
And they're usually in revolvers?
Yes.
What's a 380 and a 9 though?
Typically, 380s and 9mm are
The short nine, as we
they're
call it.
semi-automatic. They're not revolvers. They hold magazines with 7, 8, or 7, 10, 15 rounds typically.
And cowboy gun is kind of what the revolver is, has that cylinder.
Correct.
And don't get upset with me when I say this, but oftentimes people say with a semi-automatic, it has a clip in it. I know it's a magazine, not supposed to have a
Right.
clip, but that's where you put the magazine
Correct.
and charge it, rack it.
Correct.
And a 32 is the most commonly used in a revolver.
As far as I know, but there could be something else out there. But as far as I know, it's typically a revolver.
How about a 38 special? Can it be shot out like a 357 or a 44 or something like that?
Yes.
So it's small enough to go through the bigger barrel.
So I have a 357.
What brand you got?
Ruger SP 101.
Mhm.
So a lot of times if I'm just target practicing, I'll shoot 38 ball ammo out of it because you can't go the other way, but because it's cheaper and it has less recoil and it's just fun to shoot. Now you can't put a 357 in a 38; it won't work. But you can go backwards.
Okay, so you can go up, you just can't go down.
Right.
You know how many pictures you took?
I have no idea.
Have you had an opportunity to meet with me? Probably too many times and look at your photographs.
Yeah, we've looked through quite a few photographs.
All right, I'm going to State's Exhibit Stewart 1 through 131. I'm going to enter those into evidence at this time.
Okay.
See if you ever need to get some water or anything, make yourself comfortable.
Oh, good, sir.
We'll do it a couple ways, but these are so they can go out with the jury. These are State's Stewart 1 to 131. I'll bring them up on the computer too.
Okay.
Thank you, Judge. Thanks, Shane.
Screen looked like I had it on because I can see it.
Yours is
Yeah,
just
sorry.
While this is loading up, Lieutenant.
It's
what
up
about
now,
the-
sir.
Oh, there it is. Purcell Lane. What county is this in?
Cherokee County, sir.
And is it a nice area of the county?
It is.
Is it beautiful?
It is.
All right, this is Stewart 1. We're going to walk through. What I want to do is, obviously the jury's not there at the time that the processing is taking place. I'm going to ask some questions, but I really want you to kind of think through the eyes of a juror. And you've seen it, you know it, but some things may not be in their mind as it is in yours. As we come into this, and we know that you come up the driveway and you turn right to go to the barn. Is that right?
Correct.
And tell us what we're seeing here in Stewart 1. I probably would just refer to it as 1 or 2 or 3, but we're talking about the Stewart exhibit.
Okay.
So in States 1 here, what do we see?
So what you see off to the left is the barn, well, it's got 2 sliding barn doors on the front. And then just off to the right of that, you see basically 2 sheds where obviously various equipment. I mean, you can keep various equipment. And then
When you're looking at this, the barn on the left, and where was Scott's apartment be, the son's apartment?
above the barn, so the second story, second floor.
Kind of describe the apartment, the loft over the barn. What would it be like?
I mean, it's just I guess a standard apartment, bedroom, bathroom, living room area, kitchen.
Kind of more equivalent to a hunting cabin, or more equivalent to like a fancy apartment down in Atlanta?
I would say more equivalent to maybe a man room, hunting cabin, something like that.
Like a bachelor was living there,
Basically, yeah.
who's a hunter or something like that.
Correct.
What do we see in one here straight ahead? What are those things?
Talking about what the trailer's parked in front of?
This is now 2. What do we have here?
Those are basically, I mean, I consider them storage sheds. So like you can back trailers under them, you could park equipment under them, trucks under them, whatever. They've got various tools in them, basically used for storage.
I'm never good at this. My wife has to correct me all the time. Is that a lean-to, or is it a pole barn, or what would you call that?
I mean, I call it a pole barn.
Okay.
But
And states 3, what do we have here?
so it's the one on the left, I believe. Basically various tools in there: lawnmowers, shovels, tillers, various household, outside working tools.
4, moving to the left of that view, that same shed.
Okay.
What do we have here?
Just the other side, you have a tiller, a trailer, gas cans, a small pull behind, looks like fertilizer spreader, a push mower, sprinklers, just various lawn equipment.
All right, stage 5, what do we see on this wall?
On the wall, you have basically what you call I would call it a sickle on the end. You've got a shelf, you've got rakes, shovels, chain,
Tools.
tools.
Stage 6, looking at the front of this, just other things in that shed, is that right?
Yeah, so you got a shelf full of buckets and gas cans, and then to the left of that, it looks like you got a climbing ladder stand for like a hunter.
Just going around. Do you try to just capture the scene as it is, not knowing whether or not it's relevant at the time?
Correct. So when you take photographs, the first thing you do is you take overall photographs. So basically, if you had to go back and overlay something on top of it, you could completely recreate the scene. And then once you find out what your evidence is, you go back and you take the other photographs, mid-range close-ups, stuff like that.
Stewart 8 here, the right side of the right sheds here.
Yes.
Is there anything in those, or are they kind of, I guess the right one's empty, is that right?
I believe the right one's empty, yeah. Well, except for, looks like a planter.
Number 9, and when you look at this, it looks like a planter and some things have been strapped to the top.
Yeah, it's probably where, my guess is where they put the seed, to hold the seed. It looks like a planter.
I don't know if you call those toe straps, or what do you call those straps?
I mean,
Come along straps?
Ratchet straps is what I call them. But
You use those at your farm?
I don't know if that's the technical term, but that's what I call them.
Stewart 10, just empty, right side of the shed here, is that right?
Yes.
All right. Stewart 11. Tell the jury what we see in this photograph and kind of where it's at in relation to everything else on the property.
So this is behind. So what I see here is obviously you're looking kind of at the side of the right shed, looking down. There's obviously another lean-to or pole barn or whatever you want to call it off to the back, but there's various other equipment, and then like wheelbarrows, storage ladders, and then down behind that, parked next to a mulch pile is the Kubota tractor that I mentioned processing earlier.
And this Kubota, what does it have on the front and what does it have on the back?
So on the front, it's got a loader, which is commonly used in farm stuff. And then on the back, we'll have to get closer, but there's a farm. There's an implement on the back, like a small set of harrows or a drag plow or something like that. But
Stewart 12 just showing a view looking at, I guess, the front of the tractor. Is that right?
correct.
Now, describe for the jury what is to the left of the tractor, and is there anything in it, or is it empty?
The left.
This is the whole lean-to issue with me. You see that,
Oh,
that
okay.
roof that comes over?
I'm looking at it from being on the tractor, so,
Okay.
okay.
All right. So as you're looking at this photograph,
Right.
tractor's to your right.
Correct.
To the left, that little shed area. Is there what's in there?
Looks like on the left, it kind of looks like a wood chipper. We got some various piping hanging on the wall, a wheelbarrow, and then looks like a plastic storage, like a storage container to store liquid. Or
Did you learn where the tractor was normally parked? Whether it's normally parked under there or out like this?
I don't recall where it was normally parked. I mean, I know me personally, I keep my stuff under the barn because I want to take care of it. But I mean, I don't know. Some people keep stuff outside.
Stewart 13. We're looking at the right side of the tractor.
Correct.
Want to kind of focus in on those tires. Did you notice anything about the tractor, its condition, whether it's clean, not clean, or otherwise?
I mean, it looks relatively well taken care of. I mean, cleanish. It's got some dirt on it. Got some dirt on the tires.
Stewart 14. Going back, looking at that, what I call a rake, or what would you call the implement on the back of the tractor?
A rake of some sort. I don't know what the technical term is. Some sort of harrow, rake, something like that.
And what is that usually used for?
That in particular, I'm not real sure. I would be assuming it's for moving ground.
All right, Stewart's 15 on the back side. Who's that gentleman standing there to the right? Do you know?
That looks like Detective Kuykendall.
And he's not crime scene. He's just a
He's just a detective. He's a sergeant in our criminal investigations division.
So this is a back view of the tractor. Has that what I call a rake on the back. Left side, just seeing the tractor's position on Stewart 16.
Yes.
Stewart 17, kind of another going around it. You just try to walk around. Is that what you're doing?
Correct. So I'm doing overall. So I'm taking pictures of the overall piece of equipment going around.
And Stewart 18 is coming to the scoop or the bucket, or
Yes.
what'd you call it?
The bucket.
19, a little closer on the back. All right, 20, I want to go around to, I think we got pictures of the tires, begin on the right side. The right back, what do you notice about this tire?
As far as, I mean, there's dirt on the outside of the tire. It's
Stewart 21, as we go into the front. Stewart 22, what do you notice about the front right tire?
I mean, there's dirt caked in the tread of the tire on the front where it's stopped.
Stewart 23, front bucket. If I said that bucket's about 5 feet in length, would you disagree with that?
I mean, I'd probably say close. I mean, I don't know the exact dimensions of the bucket, but I mean, I'd probably say that's close.
All right, 26, that's the front right.
Yeah, yes.
And I'm going to back up just a little bit. You see on Stewart 22, you see that white round part on the tractor.
You talking about the oil filter?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
filter. So Stewart 26, you're talking about the front right.
Yes.
Stewart 27, what is this picture of?
That's the front right tire.
The mud on the tire.
Yes.
Stewart 28, back picture of the right front tire. Is that right?
I think so. I can't really tell.
And then Stewart 29, the back right.
Yes.
Stewart 29, the back right. Stewart 30, excuse me. All right, now, on the left side, the writing's on the other side. Let me go back so you know this. So you see in Stewart 20, you see that HST is on the right
Mhm.
there. Now we're on the left side. So left back tire, describe that for us.
It's got some looks like earth debris or dirt, leaves, whatever on the top.
32, just another
yeah.
picture of it.
Close-up picture.
33, this is the left step.
Correct.
Now, Stewart 34, what are we focusing on here, kind of towards the top of this step?
So about, I don't know, 2/3 of the way across, The very top of the step, there's several small reddish brown stains, and that's a close-up photo of it.
Is that seen here in Stewart 35?
Yes.
Do you have training in detecting blood or seeing blood?
Yes.
What kind of training do you have in that?
So, in my career, I've seen lots of human blood over the course of 26 years of working the road, being on wrecks, answering calls. But we also, as a crime scene technician, there's a 40-hour class you have to take. It's called blood stain pattern analysis. So it helps you learn how to identify different stains, stuff like that.
And what do you learn in those classes? Tell us just basically what, when it comes to blood splatter or blood patterns or things like that.
So you learn how to determine, like in certain things, like certain instance, area of impact, area of origin. So like it doesn't really apply in this case, but because obviously we don't have anything else than just one piece of evidence. But so if you have, a blood spatter on the wall and it's here, and somebody says I was standing up and I was hitting the head with something, you basically can say, well, I don't think that's the case because the area of origin would be down here. So you learn how to pull measurements and strings and whatnot to kind of determine. You learn directionality of blood drops. So you learn, basically that 90-degree droplets are round. You learn various patterns of blood. There's all kind of patterns of blood, white patterns, saturation patterns. Basically, it's just the scientific way to describe what kind of pattern it is. So, for example, if it's a white pattern, I'm sure everybody's seen where somebody's tried to clean something up and they wipe it in a circle. You can tell obviously that's what they call a white pattern. It means it looks like it's been tried to be wiped up. Or you have a swipe pattern, which means, like, if I'm bleeding from the hand and I walk by this wall and I brush it, obviously that's two different looks. That's what they would call a swipe pattern. Basically, I swiped something across it. I swiped the object across it. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. So if I was shot in the arm and held my arm out and blood would drop 90 degrees down and vertical, what would it look like?
It would be completely round.
Okay. And can blood be transferred from one place to another?
Yes.
From one substance or thing to another?
Correct.
When you look at this, can you tell if this has any indication of any of those things you talk about?
It could be any number of things. It could be a transfer stain. It could be.
It could be a drop.
It could be a drop because you have one looks like 90-degree on the right, but that could have come off something as well.
But could have been transferred too?
Could have been transfer. There's no way I can definitively give you the answer.
Stewart 36?
Yes.
Just a closer of that?
It's another close-up. It's done with a ABFO scale that we use those in close-up photographs so that people can get a size reference on how the size of something. So if we have to, we'll go back and recreate something later. If something has to be recreated later, you can get approximate size.
And technically, I think this was going to be GBI out of 1919B, and it's a swab tooth sample that you took. So this is the sample of the blood from the tractor that you took and was turned into the GBI.
Yes, sir.
And when you take swabs, we're stipulating to this, so it doesn't really matter, but when you take a swab, how many swabs are you doing?
So it depends. So on something like this, I took, because I have one sample, I do two. So when you collect this sample, it was dry. So if it's wet, you don't have to do anything. You can just swab it up. If it's dry, you have to use some sort of substance to be able to lift it. So we use sterile water, denatured water, whatever you want to call it. So the first thing that we do is we're going to use two swabs. The first one, we put the water comes in little vials, if that helps you guys out to kind of picture it. So you drop the water on top of the first swab. It looks like a big Q-tip basically, and you put that in. You package that so that way they can go back and you can go back and show later that the water was not contaminated. The water wasn't. There was nothing wrong with it. It was sterile. It came from a sterile environment. And then you go back and you wet the second Q-tip because the moisture in the water is just what's going to basically reconstitute enough of it to where it's not going to turn into a liquid again, but it'll reconstitute it enough to get it to lift with that, and then that got packaged as well.
And as you did in this case, when you package something, just describe the packaging that's put in to secure.
Any type of biological evidence, such as blood, gets packaged in paper or cardboard. And the reason that it does is because, obviously, everybody's put stuff in a plastic bag and seen it turn to mold, or seen it grow things inside. Well, because this is biological evidence, it goes inside typically we use swab boxes, so they come flat like this, and you have to fold them up and make a box out of them, and they have a little tab, 2 perforated tabs that pop up. That it's a long swab, so like a longer dental type swab that slides in there. So that's the way we package them. So that way they can, because cardboard's porous, so that way it can dry, and it doesn't allow moisture to stay in there and turn things moldy or grow things or whatever.
All right, going from there, Stewart 37, just in front left tire. Stewart 38, I think it's the same thing. And then 39, do you just start walking around the backside of the barn?
Yes.
Stewart 40, Stewart 41, Stewart 42, Stewart 43. Is there an area at Stewart 43, an opening where you could drive a tractor into that overhang?
Correct. I mean, I'd have to make sure it was tall enough, but I would assume that's what it's used to park equipment.
And the rest of the pictures up to Stewart 46, kind of just showing pictures of the backside of the barn.
Yes, sir.
Stewart 47, were there animals on the property when y'all were out there? Do you remember?
I want to say there was horses and chickens.
All right, so we're going to start going into the barn. You took photographs of the barn?
Correct.
Stewart 48. I'm just going to kind of walk through them if that's okay. Stewart 49. Stewart 50. Stewart 51. Have a little visitor there. Do you see him?
Yeah, little lab.
Stewart 52. Stewart 53. Stewart 54. Did you see the horses on the property?
I don't recall, but I would assume I did.
Stewart 55. Stewart 56. 57. 58. 59. 60. 61. 62. 63. 64. 65, 66, 67 now kind of in the tool room,
Yes.
68, 69, 70. And did you notice that there were ropes and other things around the property?
There was various, you see a rope hanging off the extension cords, there's ropes hanging on the wall, there was chains in one of the shed earlier, so yeah, there's ropes and chains all over the place.
72, now up to 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78. We see some of these rifle shotguns. Where are these?
It looks like the bottom 2 are rifles, and I can't tell if the top one's a shotgun or a rifle.
Just going through the rest of these. Now 83, this is the tack room for the horses.
It's one of them. There's saddles in there. There's fishing rods, various things.
All right, let me go back. Stewart 94. What do we have a picture here? Can you see it?
I believe that's the 32 revolver we discussed earlier.
For the record, what were we looking at here in Stewart 94? Describe it in words if you could.
It was you're talking about we're in the tack room. There's a cabinet, or in one of the storage rooms. There's a cabinet that's open. It's got various items in it, and then there's a 32 revolver, or there's a revolver laying underneath it with ammunition, boxes of ammunition beside it.
So Stewart 95 shows the gun as you found it.
Yes.
Stewart 96. What do we have here?
So that's the inside, like I previously mentioned. That's we obviously inspect the weapons when we pick them up. So we opened the cylinder and looked, and you can note that that's a 6-shot revolver, and there's the little round circles in the middle of the cartridges or the primers, and if those would have been fired, there would have been imagine like taking a nail, like taking a nail and hitting it on a piece of wood and then pulling it out. You'd have like a little indention in the primer, showing that it had been fired. Then obviously we would have collected the shell casing.
97, just showing the name of the gun.
Yes, it's a Winchester.
And then 98, some just pictures of the chicken coop, I guess.
Correct.
Just go through those. Now, 115. On now transition. I guess this will be on July 6th. Processing
Looks like the garbage can's downstairs because you can see the blue tarp that it's sitting on.
So, Stuart, 115 is the garbage can. Is that the picture, just a picture of the outside?
Correct.
I guess, what's that, blue tarp under it?
Yes.
Why do you do that?
Well, because, I'm fixing to lay stuff out on it so that I can photograph it and take pictures, and I want to try to keep it as obviously I'm outside, so I want to try to keep it as sterile as possible.
116. Now, you weren't involved in interviewing people to know anything about a dish or why the dish is there?
No, I'm assuming it's in the garbage can because it's broken, but sometimes the smallest things can be evidence, so you
Sure,
can document
I'm
everything.
not disputing that, but the point is you didn't talk to witnesses to know anything
No,
about it.
I did not.
You just found it.
Mm-hmm.
So, Stuart, 116, what do we see here?
So like I mentioned earlier, there was food in the garbage can, packs of cigarettes, and then obviously a broken plate.
117, I guess what you do is you peel the onion, you take some off, take another layer off.
Correct. So first, like if I was doing this, I would take an overall picture of the top of the garbage can, then I would take a few things out, take pictures again, so that way everything can be photographed. And you systematically lay it out across the tarp, which I'm sure you'll see that in a minute, and then you take an overall photograph from the top so you can see everything at one time that was found in there.
Y'all don't just willy-nilly get some evidence and throw it over there in the back of the truck. Are y'all
No.
very careful and punctilious in how you actually go through all the evidence, step by step, piece by piece, making sure you're processing it,
Yes.
packaging it right?
Yes.
All right, 118. What is this?
That's a picture of that's a close-up picture of the broken plate laying on the tarp.
119. Still going through the
And we're back in the garbage can again.
120. What do we have here?
Photographs of the papers.
121.
Plant leaves. Looks like plant leaves. There's food.
122 showing some documents and food.
Yes.
123. You're laying it out. Is that right?
Correct.
124. What is the photograph 124? Stuart 124.
So it was a document that was found in the garbage can. It was referenced second quarter earnings from. Looks like talking about finances.
Who is it addressed to? This document
Equity Partners.
from Leo Howell.
Yes.
What date was it?
It was dated June 12th of 2018.
And regards, what does it say? Or reference?
So it says reference second quarter earnings. Want me to continue to read it, or?
Yeah, if you could, just
Okay.
for the record.
So it says enclosure of the following estimated earnings through the second quarter of 2018 and the summary income statement through May 31st, 2018. Second quarter live tax draw check, or if you elected direct deposit, you can view your stub on, looks like mybird.com, but it's all wrinkled, so I can't.
Right. And then there's,
Yeah.
says LRH and attachments.
Correct.
Stuart 125, did you find this in the garbage can?
Correct.
Let me pull it down here. Stuart 125, what's it say at the top, the best you can
So it
make
says estimated year-to-date earnings. It looks like it says cumulative by quarter.
If you could, there's 1, 2, 3, are there 4 columns on this piece of paper or this document?
Yes, sir.
And the left column is it kind of it says something about by quarter and partner, is that right?
Correct.
And then what is listed in that column below alphabetically?
It looks, to a layperson and to me, it looks like last names.
Okay. But it makes out a name, like that's not gibberish. It's just like
Correct.
Abbott, Jones, Joseph, Kavanaugh, Keller.
Those are all common last names that I've heard, so I would make the assumption that they would be last names.
Appears to be alphabetically.
Yes.
The second column has a percentage of 2018 percentage of partnership. Is that right?
Yes.
And then it has different percentages per person.
Correct.
Third column says YTD year-to-date earnings 3/31/2018 first quarter.
Yes.
And then year-to-date earnings 5/31/2018 second quarter.
Yes.
Are some of these figures in money over $100,000?
Absolutely.
Some of it over $300,000?
Let's see. Yes.
Stuart, 126. What do we have here?
That looks like a 28.
Everybody loves to get this thing, don't they? The tax bill.
Absolutely. It's the 2018 tax statement for the 2155 Purcell Lane.
Cherokee County Board of Assessors. Is that
Yes.
what's labeled at the top? So
Yes.
Stuart 126. Who is it made out to?
It's made out to Gary W. Ferris and Melody W. Ferris.
So both names are on. Is that
Correct.
right? What's the address?
The address that we're here for today, 2155 Purcell Lane.
So 2155 Purcell Lane.
Yes, sir.
Official tax matter, and it says it's the annual assessment notice date May 14, 2018,
Yes.
and then last date to file written repeal June 28, 2018.
Yes.
So for the property, current year fair market value of the property, what is that?
Looks like $1,036,900.
So $1,036,900,
Correct.
and that was the value of it back in 2018.
Correct. According to the county, yes.
Stuart 127. What is this document?
It's a pay statement, a paper copy of a pay statement to address to Gary Ferris.
Stuart 127, if you look at to the right over here, what is the period start date and the period end date?
It shows it's the month of May, so May 1st, 2018 to May 31st, 2018.
Okay. What is the pay group?
Birmingham Monthly, it says.
What was the job?
Partner Equity.
It has a pay rate.
It says $159.05. Now I don't understand what that means as far as, but
Let me go to Stuart. Go to Stuart 128. Stuart 120, kind of the same thing,
correct.
just a clear copy.
Yes,
And this pay date is April.
it's
of
from April
2000
instead of May.
Pretty much is very similar to the Stuart 127, but after, not the gross, but the net. What is the amount for that month?
It says the total says $20,969.37.
Whose name is at the top there?
Gary W. Ferris.
All right, in the trash can, maybe another trash can looks like.
Correct. There was two.
Stuart 129, we see something poking out of the top there. I'm going to go to Stuart 130. What do we have here?
A bunch of soda cans, Mountain Dew cans, empty cartons of cigarettes.
Would you consider that evidence if you had to use common sense and inference that he liked Mountain Dew?
Correct.
And then 131. Judge, can I just have one moment?
for a break.
I think I'm done, Judge. I think
All right.
Judge, I'm done.
All right, we'll take a short break.
Good morning, Lieutenant.
Morning, sir. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good.
All right, first I want to start with, you had made the statement with Mr. Focus on direct examination that when you go out as a crime scene technician, that you're very meticulous in what you're doing, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And y'all try to look everywhere you can looking for evidence, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, when you got there on the 5th, you had testified previously that generally the first thing you do is talk to the detective in charge.
Typically. Yes.
Now, in this case, you didn't talk to Detective Hayes, did you? When you first got there?
I believe I went straight to the crime scene, who was leading the crime scene stuff, because they were already there.
Yeah, and that would have been Lieutenant Ballard.
Either Ballard or Shaw.
Okay. So those would have been the ones who were giving you directives on what you needed to do.
Correct.
Okay. Is it your understanding, though, that Detective Hayes is the actual detective who is in charge of the investigation?
Yes.
Okay. So Detective Ballard or Detective Shaw is in charge of the crime scene. Detective Hayes is in charge of the crime scene and interviewing.
Of the overall investigation,
Okay.
yes, because it all bleeds back into one another.
Okay. Did you ever talk to Detective Hayes about the case?
Have I? I mean, what you talking about while I was on scene, or are you talking
Well,
about?
while you're on scene, within a relative, let's say on the 3rd or the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th.
I mean, I'm sure we spoke if we were both out there, but I don't remember the nature of our conversation.
So it would have been Ballard or Shaw that gave you your directive to begin with the barn.
Correct.
Okay. Now I want to start. We're going to start with the tractor step, but we'll go to the Kubota, because you had done a lot of photographs of the Kubota. Now, you had taken touch DNA, right?
Correct.
You took 9 swabs from all over the Kubota.
Yes, I can give you the locations that I took it if you need me to.
Well, I was going to go through them, so just go ahead and list off the locations where you took the contact swabs.
Okay. So the first swab was obviously, I talked about using a control sample initially whenever we take them. So the first swab was the control sample, so it was just right out of the package into the box. The second sample was from the steering wheel. The third sample was from the 3-point hitch lever. That's the lever that raises the implement on the back up and down on the tractor. The power takeoff switch, that's what turns on the PTO that actually if you have a bush hog or a mower or something that runs off a power takeoff on the back, it runs that. The fifth one was the hand throttle lever, which, it's like the gas pedal of a car, which throttles the engine up. The sixth one was the loader control, which is basically an arm that lifts the bucket on the front of the tractor up and down. The seventh was the directional shifter, which basically forward, reverse. The eighth was there's a handle on the left side of the tractor up on the fender, on the rear fender, that's utilized to grab to get on and off. That was the eighth, excuse me. And the ninth was the ignition key itself.
So you took those 9 swabs.
Correct.
And eventually you packaged them up.
Correct.
And placed them into evidence.
Correct.
To your knowledge, were those swabs ever tested?
I don't know if they were tested or not.
Do you know whether or not they were sent to the crime lab?
I don't know.
Okay. Looking at number 35, the blood drop on the stair. Did you ever do any Blue Star testing on that?
I know on scene, I didn't, but Lieutenant Ballard sprayed the Blue Star on it after the evidence was collected, the swab was collected, and they also sprayed the RTV as well on scene.
Okay. And you took that sample, right?
You talking about collecting the blood sample right here?
Yes.
Yes, I did, sir.
And you packaged that up and that was sent off?
Correct.
Okay. Do you know if the results of that ever came back?
My understanding that it did.
Okay. So touch DNA, you don't know whether or not it was tested, but you believe that was tested?
Correct.
Okay. And by that I mean the photo states 35. Now, with this Blue Star, do you have to get specifically trained into how to use it?
I mean, there's no real formal training class. I mean, there's directions on the package of how you mix it. Once it's mixed, you spray it. I mean, I've used stuff like Blue Star and luminol on scenes. I've also used it in photography when I took my crime scene photography class. So, I mean, I guess you could say per se that's training, because you have to have different settings on the camera to take pictures like this. So there's no formal like Blue Star class, or no formal, I would assume, no formal class for spraying chemical reagents or agents like this. But on the job training, plus I've used stuff like this in my photography class and stuff to learn how to take photographs of it.
Okay.
And stuff.
Well, let's talk. Like you said, because you got to mix it. Like if I went to BlueStar.com, ordered some, got it. Is it like a powder that I mix with water?
I want to say it's tablets, I believe.
You believe it's tablet? What
yes.
do you mix it with?
Sterile water. So
Sterile, okay.
Yes.
It has to be sterile water?
Correct. Usually, yes. So
Okay.
you drop it in the water, you mix it, and then you spray it. And it tells there's directions on the I don't know without looking at the package, but there's directions on it. You know, parts per whatever, part water per tablet, or if that makes sense.
Okay. No, it makes sense. In this case, with the Blue Star that was sprayed on the RTV, was, to the best of your knowledge, who mixed that?
I want to say Ballard did. I don't remember mixing it, but
It wasn't you.
I don't think it was me. No.
Okay. Now with the, and I'll get to the RTV in a minute. Did you do any Blue Star testing on the actual tractor bucket?
I don't remember on scene. I know that it was later collected and taken to our evidence bay and redone by other techs, but I don't remember spraying it on scene.
Okay. And you went as the crime scene technician. I assume you went over that tractor with a fine-tooth comb.
Yes.
Okay. Did you find any blood or anything in the bucket?
No.
Okay. Just that one drop on stage 35.
You talking about the photo? Yes.
Yes.
Sir. Correct.
Now, that photo also, you had previously testified, you can't make any type of determination of whether or not that's a 90-degree drop, a smear, or anything like that.
It could be a
or
90
transfer.
degree. It could be a transfer. There's no way I can conclusively give you an answer.
So basically, an easier way to say that would be is you cannot show any way that you don't know how that got there.
Correct.
Okay. Now, you had also talked about with the Blue Star, is that it reacts to iron, right?
Yes.
All right, but you can also spray it. Because I assume the package, does it come with any information about, hey, this information will give false positives?
I don't know if the directions do. I know that through my on-the-job training and other stuff, I know that, I mean, obviously, like we discussed earlier, false positives do exist, because obviously it'll fluoresce for iron itself, but it's a different type of fluorescence. It fluoresces quick and turns off. Imagine flipping a light switch on and off really quickly.
Okay.
That's
That's what I wanted to ask you about. So let's say I sprayed it right here on the floor, right? And it lit up. It's possible that it could light up and I could take a photograph of it and you could see it, right?
correct.
Okay. So I think you actually said it pops real quick and then
It'll pop. If it's just iron, it'll pop real quick and disappear. So you'd have to be extremely fast with your camera to be able to make that happen if you're going to do both.
Okay. Do you recall, did you do any of the Blue Star testing on any of the towels or hand cloths found inside the home?
No, I did not.
Okay. Now the RTV, since we're on Blue Star, you remember what the RTV looked like, right? Okay. Orange, side by side.
Correct.
Right. All right. Now you had stated in your direct examination that Lieutenant Ballard had sprayed Blue Star essentially all over the RTV, and it fluoresced.
In various locations, yes.
Okay. Now, so that stuff fluoresced, and you had taken already at this point in time, because you did the tractor first, right?
Correct.
All right. So you're doing the tractor first, and then you go to help with the RTV, and it fluoresced with the Blue Star, but you didn't take any swabs of the RTV.
Correct.
Okay. None from the bed, none from the inside.
I didn't take any on scene, though.
Okay. Going back to the tractor real quick, because
Yes, sir.
on this, I don't have a good picture yet. There was some other testing done on it later, but I just wanted to ask you. This is Stewart 21.
Okay.
You can see the seat in that, right?
Correct.
Do you recall when you were looking at the tractor, was the seat on the tractor, was it pushed all the way backwards?
I
If
don't
you don't know, you don't.
I don't recall.
Okay. Do you recall whether or not you would have manipulated the seat while you were taking photographs and taking the contact swabs?
I mean, if I would have done anything while looking for evidence, I mean, typically tractor seats will fold up, you know, so if you grab for transport, you can grab the back and flip them up. I mean, I may have done that to look underneath it, but I don't recall moving it forward or backwards.
Okay. I want to go ahead. During the break, I had showed you what had been previously marked as Stewart Defense 1 through 4, and then Stewart Defense 14 through 30, I believe. Do you have those photographs?
I do, sir.
Okay. And when you reviewed those, are those fair and accurate depictions of the photographs you took that day?
I would agree, yes, sir.
Judge, at this point in time, we move into defense exhibits 1 through 4 and 14 through 30 Stewart defense.
All right.
I said wait till.
All right, they're admitted.
Okay. Lieutenant Stewart is going to be kind of, I think I've got it sorted out, but so we're going to look at one first, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, so that's a photograph inside the barn.
Okay.
Okay, and in that photograph, looks like you got a water hose leading over to a drain, and then on the right side of the photograph, it looks like it's connected to a water outlet.
Yes.
Okay. Was this area of the barn, to the best of your knowledge, was there any Blue Star ever used?
I didn't do it. I don't know if anybody else did, but I don't think so.
Did you take any swabs for potential DNA around any part of this part of the barn?
I did not know.
Okay. Now, number 2. I'll give it a test run. 2. That does nothing.
Just, or you can click it up top, but.
Let's see. That did nothing either. So,
I can see if it helps. I can see the mouse moving around up here on the screen. So.
Okay. No, we're just trying to figure out if I can make it move smoother. This photograph is just essentially the same as number 1, just showing a different angle.
Correct, sir.
All right. Stewart Defense 3. Can you tell the jury what that is?
It's a drain that's in the floor of the barn.
Okay. Now, is that the same drain that you can see in 1 and 2?
Correct.
All right. And to the best of your knowledge, was any Blue Star used there or any DNA taken?
Not that I know of, no, sir.
Okay. And number 4, that's just a close-up picture of the drain?
It's a close-up picture of the drain to show the mulch and stuff that's on the drain.
Okay. And just to keep things in order, I'm going to go ahead and close those. Now, I'd turn your attention to number 14, Stewart Defense 14.
Yes, sir.
Now, in that photograph, that's upstairs in the apartment, correct?
It looks to be, yes, sir.
All right. And you're aware that that was Scott Ferris's apartment?
Correct.
When did you learn that that's where Scott Ferris or a person named Scott Ferris lived there?
I can't give you an exact timeline when I learned that, whether it was on scene or afterwards.
Okay, that's fine. So that is, I don't know why how it's decided to change. So that's 15. Is that a photograph looking into the bedroom of the apartment?
If you go to the next one, I would say yes. Looking at the 16, the next photo, yes, I would say it's going into the bedroom. That same dresser's in the photo.
Okay, so that would have been, at least you know now, that would have been Scott Ferris's bedroom?
Correct.
Okay. That was 14, 15, 16.
Yes, sir.
And I'm going to show you now what is defense 17. That's the sink in the bathroom of the apartment.
I would agree with that, yes, sir.
Okay. And 18, that is the bathtub in the apartment.
Yes,
And number 19 is also the bathtub in the apartment.
yes.
Now, regarding this bathroom, were any Blue Star sprayed or any swabs taken anywhere in the bathroom?
Not to my knowledge, sir, no.
Now back to... I'd rather get, somehow I lost. Well, let's go there. What's your next number you have up there?
The one that I have after is 20, which is it's the picture of the side of it. Looks like the side of a bed with a dog crate with pillows on top of it.
Okay, let me do this real quick.
It says D20 on it.
D20, that's fine.
That's it.
All right, so you can see it. All right, so D20, that's in the bedroom.
I would assume because there's a bed right next to it. So
All right, and you can see that there's dog feces all over the ground.
yes,
Okay. Did you see that a lot throughout the apartment?
I mean I'd have to go back and review every single photo to look at it, but I mean there was some you can see in the pictures, the next couple pictures in various locations.
Okay. Well, for the next picture, Stewart Defense 21.
Yes,
You can see that that's also in the bedroom.
correct.
Okay. You also found, where you photographed, a credit card for Gary Ferris Bank of America. Do you recall that?
Uh,
And that's photograph 23, or I'm sorry, 22.
22. I don't recall where it was found or anything, but
Okay.
if
Do
it's
you
in my
know-
string of photos, I took it. So
Well, my question is, did you find it and don't recall, or did you just take a photograph and another detective found it?
I don't know.
Okay.
So whether I was with another detective or whatever, and they found it, I know I take pictures to document everything.
I know, would it be fair, though, that if you found this, it was in the barn?
I mean, if you say so, but I mean, if it's in with the barn photos, then yes, it was in the barn.
It was in the barn, all right. So that is 22, and then 23 is a photograph of a laptop with an Under Armour sticker on it. Do you recall that?
Yes,
And do you recall where that was found?
I would assume in the barn, but I don't know exactly where in the barn.
Okay. Now, with that laptop, do you recall, was that laptop packaged up and taken into evidence?
I don't know if it was taken or not. I photographed it, but I don't know if one of the detectives took it.
Okay. And turn your attention now to 24, is the computer's open, and then you have this series of letters and numbers, looks possibly passwords. Did that have any significance to you, or you're just documenting?
I'm just documenting.
Do you know whether or not that, along with or was that in the computer taken into evidence, or you don't know?
I don't know.
Okay, just took the photograph and
Typically, when you're photographing a crime scene, you document everything you can and
move on.
move on. Yes.
Okay. Now, you also, because you had testified with Mr. Fogus, that you had also found several bullets, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, let me go ahead and pull this up. You recall out at the scene, or in the barn actually, you found 38 caliber special bullets.
Correct.
Right. You took some photographs. I don't have those photographs up, but you also found some 380 bullets. Do you recall that?
Without looking at the pictures, no, but I remember. I mean, I took pictures of multiple different calibers of ammunition.
Okay. And you also, and Mr. Fogus had showed you on direct examination the 32 caliber pistol.
Correct.
Right. And that pistol had the ammunition in it.
It had 6 rounds in it. Correct. Unfired.
Do you recall finding any specifically 32 caliber ammunition at the scene?
I don't recall.
Okay. Now, 38 special. Do you know what kind of bullet was supposedly used in this case?
I mean, I've learned after the fact of 38, but I mean, I just documenting possibly. I was just documenting
Okay.
what the bullets I found on scene.
At this point in time, when you're actually taking this photograph, You were just documenting it, correct?
Correct.
All right. Now, did you find any 38 special handguns in the barn?
No.
Okay. So, okay.
There was several guns in the barn, the rifles and, you know,
We'll get
on the
to
wall,
that
and
in just
then
a second.
the 32 caliber, but I don't remember a 38.
Okay, we'll get to that in just a second.
Okay.
So 25, that's just a photograph of a box of 38 special ammunition.
Yes.
So 25, 26 is showing a full box of ammunition.
Correct.
27, just a close-up of 38 special.
Correct.
And 28 is just another photograph of the 38 special box.
Yes.
Correct? Okay. All right. So, you also went out to the main house and searched out there, correct? Or you assisted
I
Detective Hayes?
I assisted Hayes and Carter in different times.
Okay.
I helped Hayes in various areas and Carter in various areas.
Now, out at the main house, did you find or photograph any bullets?
I don't remember, honestly.
But you do recall, well, is it fair to say that the only place you recall finding ammunitions and firearms in this case is in the barn?
Yes.
Okay. All right, now you also documented, while out at the barn, other ammunition that was found. You recall that?
Yes. Looks like a drawer of a dresser.
Okay. And by looking at Stewart Defense 29, can you see what type of ammunition that is?
Yeah, looks like they're 38 special.
Okay. And that is, you got 3 38 specials in Stewart 29, 2 other ones in Stewart 30, is that correct?
Yes.
And then in Stewart 31, 2 other 38 specials?
Yes.
Or it could be the same 2. Do you recall how many bullets were found in the drawer?
I don't.
You had talked about, with Mr. Fogus, you know, talked a little bit, like you've had some training in blood spatter analysis.
Yes.
The 90-degree drops. When you were in the house, did you notice any blood drops in the house?
And when I was walking around, I noticed some blood, but I didn't really pay any attention to the 90-degree drops because I'd been tasked to focus on certain things when I was in the house. Help me with this, help me with this, help me with this.
Okay. Is it fair to say that, and I'm just speaking generally, okay?
Okay.
So if blood falls straight down, I think you testified on direct that you will get just a circle.
Now you might get some splash depending on how high it comes from, but typically a blood droplet when it comes off of an object is round due to the viscosity of the blood. So when it hits, it'll be round. Now you're going to get obviously splash off of it, but the initial drop is round. Yes.
Okay. You get some round with some splash.
Potentially, yes.
Now, what if the source of the blood is in motion? You would get then like a splash that goes with the motion.
You can technically. So like, you tell directionality of blood drops by tails. So if you look at any kind of blood spatter, it'll be, if it's, let's say I had it on my fingers and I slung it, the blood drop as it hit the wall would be elongated. Imagine skipping a stone, right? So the blood drop would be elongated when it hit, and then some more of it would come off and basically make a tail. So it would look like imagine a tadpole on the wall. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Or on the floor or whatever.
And the tail would be behind.
The tail would be the direction that it's going.
The tail is the direction it's going.
Right. So imagine, because I think it's force. So when I do this, if it was on my fingers, it's going to hit and impact, and it's going to basically point in the direction that it's going.
Okay. And would that be the same if the person was walking or running?
I mean, it depends, but could.
It could be. Okay.
Yes.
So you, like, theoretically, you should be able to, or you can, like if you had a blood trail, tell the direction of the blood trail. That is a possibility.
Yes.
Okay. Now, Mr. Fogus, it also, there was a lot of photographs of the, I'm not going to pull them back up, of the tack room. There was a lot of ropes and chains and things like that you testified that you saw?
Yes.
With that, did you take, or if you know, did any of the other investigators take any of those things into evidence?
I mean, not that I know of.
Did you find any ropes or chains inside the main house separate from the barn?
I don't recall seeing any, no.
Okay. So then it's fair to say that the only place you found any ropes or chains would have been in the barn?
Correct.
Okay. Now, 1 second, because it was real far down. Mr. Fogus, to talk to you about States 125. I just want to ask you, because you found States 125, which is the Part D equity form.
Correct. It came out of the, that's one of the things that came out of the garbage can downstairs.
Okay. Anywhere on that list do you see Gary Ferris's name or the name Ferris?
If you'll give me just a second, let me review it.
Yep.
No.
Okay. You don't see Gary's name? Okay.
No, but it's in alphabetical order, so there would be no way that there's an F on there for Ferris. If you look, it's all in alphabetical order.
Correct. And so, but you would have taken everything that was in that trash can and laid it down and took photographs, correct?
Correct.
And that wasn't in there?
Correct.
Okay. Also, State 126, this is the tax bill you testified about?
Yeah, it's a tax statement, yes.
All right, and you'll see that that tax bill is in the name of Gary and Melody.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Now, you spent a good portion of July the 6th helping Detective Hayes look for the alleged firearm, correct?
We looked in several locations in the house, the closet, the study, various locations.
Okay. Didn't find anything inside the house?
Did you find a firearm?
Yeah.
We didn't find a firearm, no.
Okay. Yeah, so no firearms in the house. You also searched the compost pile for firearms?
Yeah, so we took I think that was actually on the first day, because the compost pile was directly in front of the tractor. So one of the investigators on scene, Corporal Olenek, he grabbed the metal detector and to kind of metal detect that area around where the compost pile was. And myself and Investigator Duncan took shovels and also moved stuff around, through the compost pile and in various areas around the compost pile while he was using the metal detector in search of any sort of evidence, firearm, you name it.
Okay. You had also talked about, with the trash can, that you had taken swabs of the trash can.
Correct.
All right. Do you recall whether those were packaged up and placed into evidence?
They were.
Were they sent off to the crime lab to be tested to the best of your knowledge?
I would assume so, but I don't want to say for certain under oath.
Okay. Yeah, if you don't know, you don't know.
So.
There was also the Detective Hayes had called you to photograph some shoes and a shirt that he found.
Correct.
Correct. Now, do you know, or did you see Detective Hayes find the shirt?
I don't recall if I was in the room when he found the shirt or not.
Okay, so you don't know where the shirt was located in the house?
I believe the shirt was in a closet, but I'm not 100% sure. No.
Okay, so like if I asked, was it hanging up? Was it in the dirty clothes? Was it on the floor? You don't know?
That I don't know, no.
Okay, and you photographed that shirt, correct?
Correct.
All right. And also you photographed two sets of shoes.
Correct.
There was one set of shoes. You didn't actually do the swabbing for the preliminary blood test, correct?
Correct.
All right, that was another investigator?
Yeah, but I don't remember which one it was, honestly.
Okay. And Did you take those items into your possession, or did Detective Hayes take those items?
I did not take those items into my possession to be processed as evidence, so I would assume it would have been one of the detectives.
Okay, so you were strictly photographing them?
Correct.
Okay. Give me just 1 second, Lieutenant.
Yes, sir.
I have no other questions. Thank you, Lieutenant.
This is Station Exhibit Riley 1. It's a calendar there. You were there, so July 2018. July 3rd, 4th, and 5th. You went there July 5th, is that right?
5th and 6th, yes.
All right. Do you know anything about what occurred in the evening of July 3rd?
I do not.
Do you have any idea, or were you involved in the time of death when Gary was shot and killed?
No.
How about on July 4th? Were you there at all?
No, I believe the initial 911 call came out on the 5th, which is for what we're here in court for. So I went out there that night, but I didn't go out there before then.
All right, so July 3rd, July 4th, those 2 days, didn't know what was going on at the property or anything, right?
No clue, sir.
Did you find the gun that was used in this case?
No.
So it was missing?
Yes.
But you found bullets and things like that in the barn?
Yes.
But there were several days that passed, but no gun was found.
Correct.
And you were asked about things that you found in the barn. Do you know, was there any towels that were wet or in dryers or washer or dryer or anything in the barn?
I don't remember, honestly.
Was there any clothing that looked like had suit or anything like that in the barn?
In the barn? No.
Any shoes that were wet or other shoes that had possibly blood on them?
In the barn? No.
Sure.
No, not in the barn.
Nothing like that in the barn?
No.
Ms. Franklin has a good question. Did you find any blood to the naked eye or anything like that in the barn? Any indication that there was blood there?
No, sir.
Nothing further gone.
Yes. And Stewart, look at that. Can you tell us what that is?
It looks like it's in a dresser drawer or a nightstand drawer. It's a photograph of the items that are in it.
Okay. And is that a fair and accurate depiction?
I would say so, yes.
Okay. We can move to Tender Stewart, defense 31.
No, Judge.
And Judge, I'll test out our taping.
All right.
Kind of scan this one if you'll hit it for me. Oh, right here.
No.
Good. Hey, look, it worked. Lieutenant Stewart, do you recall if the drawer we were talking about earlier in the barn apartment, is that a photograph of it?
I don't remember, but I mean, it could be.
Okay. And well, you can see right here, because we were talking about bullets earlier in
Correct.
Stewart 30 and 32, or I'm sorry, 29, 30, and 31.
Yes, sir.
You can see I'm pointing to them right now, kind of in the center of the photograph. Those are the bullets you were taking photographs of?
I mean, I would guess so, yes.
Okay.
If it's the same drawer, then yes.
Okay. And also, on the barn upstairs, because we had talked a lot, or a little bit about the animal feces in the barn.
Yes.
Oh, What do I do? Just turn it off, Judge? Just leave it? Oh, okay. And so, I mean, it's fair to say that the upstairs apartment was fairly dirty, right?
And it was lived in, yes.
Yeah, okay. But if we look at number 17, you would agree with me that is quite the clean sink, right?
I mean, it's cleanish, yes, but
Mhm.
there's, if you look at the corners, there's stuff all in the corners of the sink.
Okay. What about the bathtub, though? Stewart Defense 30.
Looks like a bathtub.
Okay. Clean, though, right?
Cleanish, yeah.
All right. And he's got up here on the top, looks like a magic eraser.
That's what it looks like to me.
All right. And then in 29, still clean, right?
Yes.
Okay. And not that it was your responsibility, but to the best of your knowledge, there was no luminol or any DNA or anything taken from the
Not that I know
bathtub.
of, sir, no.
Okay. And Lieutenant, if I can approach you, get those photographs from you.
This one, Wilson.
No other questions. Thank you, Lieutenant.
Yes, sir.
Anything, Mr. Fergus?
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, you sit down. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, call your next witness.